Tonight, we have part 3 of our investigation of the delayed response to the LaPorte fire last fall, a fire that destroyed 74 structures in the small Butte County community of Bangor. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Allison Woods.
And I'm Brent Weber. Those 911 recordings reveal callers reporting seeing flames near their homes on Darby Road just before 11:30 that night. But the Butte Cal Fire Chief now says he cannot confirm the fire engine drove down Darby Road or checked those specific addresses where people first called for help. Instead, the fire captain reports there was no fire. He reported, rather, there was no fire in Bangor, and evacuation notices did not go out for 2 hours. Kelly Som is here with what Butte County Cal Fire learned from that night.
Compare Butte County's response to that of Sonoma County, where supervisors requested an independent review after criticism of their fire response and emergency notification on that same night in October. The state officials came back with this scathing 34-page review, saying the county's procedures for issuing emergency alerts and warnings were slowed by confusion. Now, by comparison, Butte County has not asked for an independent review like this. I did talk to the Butte County Cal Fire Chief and the dispatch supervisor to find out what, if any, changes they've made after the delayed response to the LaPorte fire. Inside the Butte County Cal Fire Dispatch Center, you count on dispatchers to send help when you call 911. But on the night of October 8th, when more than 50 people in Bangor reported a fire near their town, many of them were told there was no fire in Bangor.
Okay.
They need some help with some serious backup.
Okay, we have an engine in Bangor. They're reporting that there's no fire in Bangor.
Don Moulton used a garden hose to save his house from the flames. He says he didn't see a fire engine for several hours.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal that I could look around and see the whole town in flames and nobody here to fight it.
The first report started coming in at 11:13 p.m. Within 3 hours, the fire swept up LaPorte Road, destroying a series of homes right here to the Four Corners, the very center of town. We reviewed some of the 911 calls with the Cal Fire Chief, Darren Reed. When I listen to the 911 calls, I think the last thing I want to hear a dispatcher tell me is, when I'm reporting a fire that's near my home, is, ma'am, there's no fire. Should any dispatcher ever tell someone there is no fire when they're reporting a fire?
I think that could have been worded differently.
Chief Reed was in San Diego the night of the fire. He said he and his team reviewed and critiqued the response to the LaPorte fire with dispatchers and firefighters, just as they do with any major fire.
You know, it's unfortunate that they were told there was no fire on their property. I think some of those people didn't have fire on their property, and I think some of them truly did. And when the people that truly did have property or fire on their property talked to us, we had initiated an engine to go check. And when that engine checked the community and a qualified fire captain drives around and says, there's fire, but it's in Yuba County still, that's the message that they relayed. We have to go by that.
What does your critique tell you about what you heard in those 911 calls? How did dispatch do that night?
I think that our command center staff and all of our fire control personnel did an excellent job that night. Typically, we run 55 calls a day. That tripled that day. We had 18 wildland fires that were started during the wind event. The delays that people saw was our lack of resources. Literally, most of our fire stations, the 23 we have, were empty.
So you can see what happened between about 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. I'd like to say all hell kind of broke loose in Northern California.
Captain John Gaddy was supervising the dispatch center on what he describes as an unprecedented night for fires. Before the LaPorte fire started, many of the county's firefighters were sent to the Cherokee fire north of Oroville. Listening to it now, 6 months out, does it sound bad, though, when you're telling people there's no fire?
Oh, absolutely. But I hear that. Yeah, that's absolutely bad.
Captain Gaddy admits there are areas where they could have done better.
We need to do a better job of being a little bit more empathetic and patient. We were overwhelmed that night. The amount of calls that were coming in was, I have not seen.
So what could you do better?
Maybe we could narrow down the questioning a little bit differently. Instead of saying there's no fire on your property, we could ask more direct questions to try and determine that with the people that call 911. We've learned from it, and we'll move forward, and hopefully it never happens again.
CAL FIRE said they did request more resources and mutual aid, but there were so many large fires across Northern California that night, they did not get the resources they requested. Now, some of you have asked, has anyone been held accountable in Butte County? The fire chief said no one has been fired, no one has been reassigned, and no one has been retrained in the wake of the LaPorte fire. State and federal authorities are reviewing the LaPorte fire and other October wildfires in what they call an after-action plan. We'll bring those results to you when they're available. Kelly Som, KRCR News Channel 7.
Well, if you missed parts 1 or part 2 of Kelly Som's special report, There's No Fire in Bangor, or you just want to watch part 3 again, we have them on our website, krcrtv.com. You'll see the orange banner across the top of our homepage.